Oh, there we go. Hey guys. Hey, looks like a whole bunch of y'all, and I see 7 on the thing. So I see it says Michael's on. I see Cassie, Elijah. Um, I see Elijah asking, yes, there's still going to be a stream tonight. I was just a minute late trying to finish up chores. My dad came over to get the bobcat forks or the skid steer forks, and we got chatting, so I got behind. You know how that goes. You want me to move? Okay.
Just gotta suck it in a little bit.
Well, the chair doesn't suck it any further than that.
Me.
Oh, is it you?
Me and suck it in.
Okay. Looks like we got a whole bunch of people on.
Awesome.
Hopefully everything stays running. It seems to be working pretty good tonight. So one thing. Oh, what is this? Hey, Robin. Let's see. Naturally, my computer decided to do a Windows 10 update right. Sure enough, now it's going to be unstable because Windows 10 is trying to update. Okay. So how is everybody doing tonight? It looks like the rest of the country is starting to finally warm up, dry out. I haven't seen any more storms. Have you?
No.
So I don't know if anybody else is, actually get in the screen here. So I don't know if everybody's weather is starting to get better. I saw that most of Texas is back with power, and heck, it was what 52 today.
I think so.
So it's nice and warm here. So we had a nice day. Other than flies are out already, which I was kind of surprised about. So who knows if the weather is going to stay nice. I think I saw rain in the forecast. Really nice and warm today after our deep freeze. I bet. I thought I had seen that you guys were going to be like in the 60s this week or 70s, Cindy. It looked like that Texas stuff blew out and then just got really, really warm, or was going to get really warm. So
It's going back to normal.
I know.
Normal-ish.
Well,
For Texas, yeah.
Yeah, 74 tomorrow. I can't even imagine. You're going to be like, I know what that does to me. It messes with my sinuses when we go from really cold to really hot. It's close to 70. You're down in California. It's always nice in California. Yeah, it's definitely. I don't know what is going on with the weather. It's definitely nice right now. Kentucky might hit 60 tomorrow. It's crazy warm for February. At least I think so. We'll see what happens. And Michael's on from Utah, so yeah. So do you have anything specific you want to talk about?
No.
Not really. Not really. I know I'm getting the spring fever, ready to start planting gardens. I'm sure some of you probably already are, but we're getting a little. I'm ready. I'm tired of mud, I'm tired of rain. I'm tired of snow. I'm ready for like 60s and 70s and planting and getting all that kind of stuff going. So I'm sure everybody else is too. Yeah, I hope it's moving on to spring too. It's always hard to say. We get we get like 7 different false springs a year. So it's super nice right now, and it could be really freaking cold next week, and we never can tell around here.
Well, what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Nikki's parents were in Arizona, and they were planning to come back early because it was getting hot, and to them in Arizona is like 70, 75.
Yeah.
So they were going to come back up here, and they stopped to go. It was basically blowing slush.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
remember, it got so warm, and that 6 inches tried to melt, and it was like, I already deactivated it.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it was crazy because it was like melting 6 inches of slush, and then Nikki had to go blow it with the snowblower.
And it kept jamming up the snowblower. It was awful.
Yeah.
Well, Cindy, you're way ahead of me. I need to breed rabbits, and I had meant to do it yesterday, and last week was so bad with everything I've got going on in the Harlequin Club that we took a day off on Sunday, and then I was going to do it today, and like I said, my dad showed up to get the bobcat forks or the skid steer forks, so I never made it to breed. And I've got some girls getting the fever. They're getting kind of slap happy and real excitable. So Definitely gonna have to get on the ball on some of that. Robin, yes, need to clean out goat stalls. Ours don't like being out in the snow either. So cold the chickens wouldn't even go out. Ours are locked in for the winter, so we don't really deal with that a whole lot. But yeah, they don't. When we have too much snow, the LGDs don't want to go out. The
Mm.
goats don't want to go out. Nobody wants to go out. They just want to hide in there, trying to get 2 litters in before it gets to be 100. That is, yeah, for sure. And I'm kind of worried. So last summer and the summer before, I bred all through the summer. Just was a little bit cautious around August. I don't think I'm going to get to this year. I have a feeling it's going to be really hot and miserable. And so I'm probably going to try and be kindled out by the early part of July this year and just try and take most of July and August off. 2 inches this morning. Got up to 50. Yeah, we're melting off what 4 inches of snow right now. Most of it's gone, but everything is so sloppy, nasty, wet, mucky. I tried to move the wheelbarrow today and I left like 2 and 3 inch ruts. It's just so soft, just so incredibly soft. You didn't try that because you were in working.
No, I've been working, but it was sloppy doing chores that I was slipping through the mud.
Yeah.
Inch of mud.
Or
Uh,
where the ice is still in a
mhm.
couple of places. Yeah. We don't get terribly, terribly hot. We've been the hottest we've had since I've been here is what,
About
105?
5 or 6. Yeah,
But generally we don't get.
100's pretty hot for us.
Yeah, last summer, was it the last 2 summers we only got into like just barely into the 90s. I think 90, we did hit like 97 I think last year for the
Mm.
very hottest. So, as they say, it's a dry heat. So it's not horrible, but
Yeah,
it is hot.
it's like 3% humidity in the summer.
Yeah, the humidity gets really, really low, and then there are days where the wind blows and it feels like
A hair
a
dryer,
hair dryer. It's pretty
a
awful.
hair dryer at a distance. It's not like overly hot, but it's warm.
Well, and it makes it really hard to garden because everything dries out. So you'll water, but the evaporation is so high, so just awful that it's really hard to keep the ground moist. So, you know, it could be worse, I guess. We're not in Death Valley. So, Evan's family homestead. Hey, everybody. Well, welcome. It looks like there's about 11 people on. So, if you didn't have anything to talk about,
No, not really, other than feed costs bothered me
do you miss the muggy South ever?
all the time.
All the time. I actually really miss the growing season down south. That's probably the biggest thing. So yeah, I would like to have the daily afternoon rain showers that we used to have in Mississippi. That would be nice. I don't miss tornadoes. I don't miss hurricanes or any of that, but it's just kind of what it is.
Yeah.
Ray, I had 3 doughs Kindle yesterday and 2 more bred, although one did not pull any hair. Do the kits need hair to stay warm? Um, it kind of at your temperature, probably not. As long as there's bedding, they should be okay. And as long as there's 4 or 5 of them, they're probably fine. I've had that happen in the summer where some of my does won't pull hair, and as long as the temperatures are high enough and there's enough of them, I don't worry about it too much.
Yeah.
At least you don't step outside and look like you took a shower with the humidity.
No.
In Mississippi, remember, you take a shower sometime in the summer and you'd never dry out. Like, I could shower in the morning and sometimes my hair would still be damp at bedtime. Like, it just never would dry. It was an experience. My dad complained every time he came down to visit. And I mean every time he came to visit, it was like, "Oh, I can't dry out." That's a little better.
Yeah.
I felt that's exciting. They're doing great. So the 2 that hatched at the end of December, We're only at like 7.5 weeks, but I pulled them out and looked at them today, and I really think they're going to be girls, which is good news. We have 8 or 9 in the incubator right now, and the 9 from the hatch at the end of January are doing really well. So Kanan hadn't seen him. Like, I put him outside a week ago, just about a week
Yeah,
ago,
something like that.
and he looked at him night before last.
Yeah, I went in there and peeked in. I was like, "Oh, look, which ones are these?" And she said, "Those are the babies." And it's like they're like the size of my fist. They're not babies anymore. So
They grow so
they
fast.
grow crazy fast. They'll go from what I say. You take them out the size of ping pong balls, and in a week.
I'm really kicking around, cutting back the chicken herd or the chicken flock. Feels like a herd. The chicken flock like huge. I'm kind of already starting to. I've got some listed on Craigslist right now, and so I'm already starting to think that maybe we'll cut way back on the chickens and go with the quail. I really like them. The roosters aren't the jerks that full size roosters that chicken roosters are. The noises, I'm sure they're gonna still lay powerhouses, like, they lay every freaking day to the
Mhm.
point where I have quail eggs everywhere. So, I really like the quail. I had been kicking around doing them for a couple years, and just kinda the timing worked out right,
Chickens. What?
and people complain that they stink a lot, and I don't think that quail really stink any more than chickens do.
No, I don't think so.
So, well,
We camp, and when we offer farm fresh eggs to campers, people have probably tried quail just for the nifty factor, white or brown, or you have Easter eggers, which is green, and not really mandates it, but it's kind of like a common thing to do that. And I'll say this, I was surprised tonight. I found
the mic keep talking.
so it was, it's kind of interesting. I pick up most of the eggs, so I got 2 or 3 chicken eggs. I get a turkey egg every couple days from one of our younger hens. Got a goose egg tonight, so and then she gets I don't know 4 and 5 quail eggs a day. So right now we can't even eat the amount of eggs we have. So we're starting to have to give them over to the dogs because we have so many to eat now. We've just got them everywhere. So we've got to get rid of them. So
Is that any better?
yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
So Robin, you asked on touching on business side we didn't get to last week. Do you have something specific you're interested in? Like a specific question?
Yeah, because we kinda talked about some business stuff a couple
Mhm.
weeks ago
Yeah.
while we're waiting on her.
So Cindy likes the quail eggs for hard boiled. So we've been doing big salads at night. And so Nikki, she cooks in the oven like 2 or 3 tender chicken tenders.
Yeah,
And we slice those up and then she hard boils up like a dozen quail eggs. And
basically just your typical Cobb type salad, chicken Cobb salad, but
yeah,
yeah, you can really go through a whole bunch of quail eggs really
yeah,
fast.
yeah.
And I've been thinking about making deviled eggs again because I made them at Thanksgiving, and when my dad was like, "Oh my god, you have too much time on your hands," and they're super easy to peel if you do it right. But
Yeah,
yeah, um, yeah, it's we definitely have a lot right now. That's for sure.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, you can use cotton balls. Uh, there's a lot of people I know that will actually pull some, like if a doe pulls a lot of hair and the weather's a little bit warm, you can pull some of that hair back and stick it in a Ziploc bag and just label it as to who it is and kind of put it aside and it works fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do it. If it works, cotton doesn't. I think she probably missed the one where we talked about
I love it.
building
So,
your business.
so I don't know. If you didn't, Robin specifically has been Boston increases on everything. Kind of really make our decision. It's starting to get windy. That's why I'm thinking it's getting stable.
Oh, okay.
Looking at downsizing some chickens. She's got some on Craigslist right now. On Facebook, somebody had said their chicken feed went up $5 a bag, and she has a friend in Mississippi that works at a Tractor Supply
Yeah, Tractor Supply and
that went
McGee.
up. So you have to start asking. When that happens, your income really can't come in that much more. You can't account for that. So for us, we're probably going to have to decide what we're going to keep, what we're not. We we had talked about it the other night. Rabbit feed is 550 for 40 bags, $550 for a pallet, which is 40 bags. If that goes to 650, which that's another 250 a bag, or if that goes to 750, which is $5 a bag, that's an additional. I don't know. I can't remember how we figured it out, but it's like $1,000 a year more to run the same stuff, and you're not going to make another $1,000 in profit to
No,
account
probably
for it.
not. So right now, so usually what happens is about November, December, I start doing my business plan for the next year, which is what I already did. And what I do is I take all of my sales from the last year and kind of forecast it forward. So if like last year we did like 60 nights of camping in the hip camp, but we also started late. So I kind of go through and I look at it and I think, okay, well, what weekends were we busy? What reasonably do we expect to
Hmm.
expand on? So I forecast all that kind of stuff out. Well, when we get to something like this, when we get into February, and suddenly my feed store guy is telling me feed is probably by the end of the year going to be 30 to 40% higher than what it is right now. I basically right now I'm pulling up the plans from last year, um, and my forecast and trying to adjust.
Yeah, crazy the right prices. Yeah.
Yeah, and in a short amount of time, Elijah, like my girlfriend that's in Mississippi that works at Tractor Supply, she worked on Friday and had Saturday off, came in yesterday morning, and they handed her a price sheet and said, "These are all the new prices. Go change the labels." And they were 250 on most of the chicken feeds. All the rabbit feed went up $1. So everything is going up very, very, very rapidly. And my feed guy, the last time I had talked to him, he said that the next time they ordered chicken feed, it was going to be 20% higher. No explanation. And this was a week and a half before everything happened in Texas. So
Hmm.
it's going to be very interesting. But to kind of explain what we're doing, Robin, so I because you've watched a lot of our videos, we do hip camp. Um, and we sell the rabbits and we do chickens, geese, ducks, which we won't have any this year because we're down to one hen and she's old. And then we've started with the quail and we kit out our goats every year. And the goats have never paid for themselves, and I don't expect that to change anytime soon. They're here mostly for fire prevention and brush clearing, and we know that. And
Yeah.
we hope to dairy and do some stuff this year. So knowing that, traditionally what I do is I expand my animals every year. Like last year I sold 205 rabbits or whatever. So I had forecasted to sell 300 this year. Well, if the feed continues to go up, I'm going to have to cut that back. So I'm looking at which animals I can grow feed for,
Hmm.
um, which ones I can cut back and still not lose a whole lot. So, like right now on my cull list for the rabbits, I might be cutting out all my little rabbits, my Triantas. Um, I might be cutting back half of my Harlequin herd, like the older half of the herd, and just trying to go with the younger rabbits. Um, and I'm trying to do more non-animal type stuff is the other thing. We're looking at doing more expansion on the hip camp. I'm sure you've noticed that we're trying to do more expansion with our classes. So we're trying to do more of that. We might try and do some farm tour type days here. I'm even looking at doing a Harlequin specialty show at my house. Part of that is because all of our shows are canceled again. But yeah, it's a matter of everything's getting ready to go up. So you kind of have to look at it and say, well, if the animals aren't paying for themselves, I mean, we're still going to have plenty of option to like feed ourselves and our dogs, which is a big deal. But we have to start looking at, do we have to cut some of the animals back? And of course, I grow a lot of stuff and I'm changing the garden plan and actually adding in some alfalfa patches and maybe some oat patches and different stuff to try and feed some of these guys on the property rather than buying feed.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're kind of starting to dial back some of the animals all of the sudden because the
Yeah.
feed is, I mean, we're not even in March yet and the feed is high. Last year when everybody got that chick frenzy, I was hatching chicks and I couldn't find chick starter. And the stuff that I could find was really expensive. Well, that really makes a big difference. And I'm not a big hatchery. So my chicks last year went from like $3 a chick straight run to like 4 and 5. Well, you can imagine I wasn't selling them. So then we were growing them out and then it's more expense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a, right now I will say that the business plan is completely up in the air because everything has changed in the matter of like a week or two. And I see Ray saying that feed went up. Uh, there's a gal in one of my rabbit groups on Facebook that said she buys Bar Ale, and it's a feed brand, and it went from what did I say 16 to 22 a bag in the span of a week.
Yeah.
Matthew, do you think Angoras pay for themselves in wool sales? No, I think there isn't a lot of people that buy Angora wool. There's not a lot of people that are buying pelts or wool, period. Angoras will pay for themselves if you can learn how to spin and actually turn it into either roving or yarn. If you can card it out and do all the things that you have to do to actually what they call value add, if you can take that raw fiber up to something, especially if you can spin it all the way, yes, there's good money in Angora. If you're trying to sell the raw fiber, no, there's no money in it. The processing is so high that basically people aren't going to give you any. If you can find a good artisan group, there are some ladies that want to do it and will pay for it, but it's not, I don't think it's a sustainable practice at all. And Devin, no, maybe Germans or giants. And I would stay away from German or
Giants.
the giants because you still have to, like, not every rabbit has one great fiber. Everybody just assumes that Angora is an Angora, but they don't all have great fiber.
Mm-hmm.
Some breeds and specifically have like more guard hair and things. So you do have to be prepared that you're still going to have to eat some of these guys. And when you get into giants, it's the same thing. You've still got the big bone that we talk about in the other giant breeds. So I wouldn't necessarily do that. If I were going to do a set in Angora, I would do satin Angoras. They've been really popular here in the last year or so.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody likes that high luster, kind of nichey looking yarn. It makes really pretty hats and scarves and that kind of stuff just because of that luster. But it is really fine too. And that's the other thing with Angora is they usually will blend it with something because the Angora hair is so fine. So you really like if you're going to do it yourself, you've got to have something to mix it with. So it kind of gets. I just don't think realistically that there's money to be made in animal fibers or pelts right now, especially with like depending where you're at in California. There's just no way.
That's good. That Devin's able to make some money.
My Rex rabbit sales pay for my French pets. um, yeah, I'm. If you've got somebody that's willing to buy them, and Rex are really popular again right now, especially with everybody rushing to get into rabbits. They all think, "Oh, I'm going to do things with these crazy great velveteen rabbit pelts," and for most of us at Homestead, there's really not time to deal with any of
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
I do French because their upkeep is so much easier. I like the French Angora a lot. They're not a real big rabbit. Um, anytime you're talking about Angora, you just have to know that the wool is a big deal. You have to pretty much burn it off of cages. Believe it or not, if I were going to do a wool animal other than the satin Angora, I would actually do a Jersey Woolly, which is just a little tiny. They're basically a Netherland dwarf with the long coat, but pound for pound, they actually do a higher output of fiber. And once you get them past the junior stage, as long as you're blowing that fiber out weekly, it's a whole lot less upkeep. and their temperaments are really good too. So, and spinning a little Angora goes a long way. I'll take your word for it. I've never learned to spin. It's on the bucket list. Let's see. You thought of renting your goats for brush clearing? Not in this country. We have so many mountain lions, and there are so many areas that you have to deal with a lot of stray dogs and coyotes. I mean, there's just
Yeah.
no way that I would ever feel good about sending my goats out anywhere.
The hardest thing for us is that if the bedding fence to keep these dogs and the goats in, they will have acres. That was our big thing last year. We've had to build buildings, we built shops. So really, I make them somewhere else and let somebody else do that. And a lot of people around here probably don't want to deal with our goats. I mean, some of them are pretty big bullies, so I don't know, and they tear up fences a lot, and we just deal with it because we know who they are. But
Not doing any better.
yeah, I don't know. I guess I wouldn't worry that much about disease, like Robin says, but
We're kind
it's
of in
possible.
we're in an area. My bigger concern would be parasites,
Yeah,
and we're not in a real high parasite load area just because we're so dry that we don't deal with a lot of parasites. But um, yeah, any of that, we don't, like Kanan was saying, we don't have a huge herd. We have like 30 goats,
yeah,
and a lot of them, the vast majority of our goats are does. So there's no way. I just, people who have done it. There's a
yeah,
gal in one of my groups that does it in the Willamette Valley, and they do pretty well. I could watch them like every day.
yeah,
I don't really want to do that.
yeah,
Read and catch up on Cindy stuff. So you're right, blending is the way to go. Like I said, I don't spin. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I do know some Angora people, and they were telling me that you definitely want to blend it. So that's that's what's in my brain. Right or wrong. I get told something and it goes kind of in the vault, if you will, and that's
yeah.
kind of what I know about it. But one day I will learn to spin. I've always wanted to. I've always wanted some Pygora goats and some fiber rabbits and to make my own yarn. And I think that would be the coolest thing ever. And I do not have any kind of time for that right now.
Yeah.
It's just kind of the way it is. So I don't know. But if getting back to that renting goats thing, if you were in an area for it, like the Willamette Valley or any of those kind of places, it, from what I've seen, it can be a pretty viable market. It's just not. I think we're just too far out and too spread out. We don't have a lot of stuff that's really good. I mean, it's all sagebrush country, and most of the guys out here would just as soon
Yeah.
take a um, brush
Brush hog,
hog to
yeah.
it and cut it all down.
Yeah,
So
we don't really have a lot of like our
or black.
acres of pasture basically
Mhm.
for the llamas, and they'd be walking up and that. We couldn't keep up. We didn't have fences either to necessarily get 30 goats on it and that. But it would grow so much that in the winter I think we had maybe 3 4 round rolls,
Yeah.
that were hundreds of pounds. So maybe we went through 1,000 pounds because they go through 10 to 12 a year. So there, it was a huge growing year. We had 9 months of green grass that goats could eat on all year. So
I watched a spinning video the other day, and they used poodle with Angora. That's interesting. I'm starting to see, at least in a lot of my groups, a lot of usage of dog furs. Dog- Yeah, I guess it's furs. I, they don't exactly have wool, but I've seen a lot of that kind of stuff. I raise sheep and
yeah,
alpaca.
she's overrun with wool.
Oh
I
my
can believe I can
gosh.
believe that.
Having had llamas for years and used to shear, we at one point in Tennessee, we had 22 llamas, and we had moved them from Oregon, so they weren't used to the humidity, so I had to get out there and shear them.
Yep,
And
I remember that. It was all basically hand sheared. It wasn't
yeah,
even an electric shear. It was the big scissors, the big hand
I
shears that we
do
did.
faster by hand shearing,
Yeah,
believe it or not,
yeah,
because I've just done it for so long. Now I'm out of practice. I probably couldn't, but yeah, shearing 20 llamas every summer we had tons of, and in the beginning I'd stick it in bags and I'm like, I'm gonna get to this and I'm gonna do stuff. Yeah, no, in the end it all went in the garbage.
Yeah. Yeah. I
They
remember that.
called dog for
I
Chingora.
think it's Angora.
Wow, that's kind of interesting.
Mm.
Huh. I knew there's a name for it because somebody was telling me a while back that they had a scarf, I think, that was made with Pyrenees hair, Pyrenees guard dog hair. So it's kind of interesting. I don't really think I'd be excited about that, but fur is fur. I mean, it's only our idea that it's weird.
I get dog fur in my face every night.
Oh
I
gosh,
get a big 150-pound dog
yeah.
out there that loves getting my face every night.
Well, and the collie is shedding terribly,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
I feel like I'm getting pounds of collie fur every time.
Yeah.
Kind of a joke. Oh, okay. I'll take your word for it. That's kind of neat, though.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing we're doing this year, and especially lately, especially since I've had to work, 8 9 hours a day where I can't do anything else because I've got to be in here working on this project, is we've had to really focus on time management.
Yeah.
The last position I had before I got furloughed and laid off was kind of on demand. I was here. I was almost an insurance policy. When they needed something, I was available. But if they didn't have anything for me at that time, I could go do other stuff. So we could run to town, and I just take my laptop and we go to town. And if I had to do any meetings or anything else, we'd do that. It'd be 2 o'clock on a Friday. We'd be at Walmart. This last Friday, I had to take a whole afternoon off to go to the town because I can't I can't be that insurance policy anymore. We're doing this database migration and that, and it just takes time to constantly go through everything. And so the last 4 weeks, I'm only here. I do 30 minutes chores in the morning. I do the hour what at night.
Yep.
And then, I've been writing a lot more. I've got other websites I've been doing. You're doing a lot more writing and websites and stuff. And I'll tell you, the farm stuff, thankfully, is not in full swing because I don't know how we'd manage it. Today alone was a really good day. It was 50 degrees out, and I was working. I think it was 12 before we really even kind of sat down. It was like, "What do you want to do today?" And it was noon.
Yeah. I'm having some difficulties. Let's just put it that way
You
in
know,
my
and
Harlequin club.
and so Nikki went out for 2 hours to go get a jump on chores because of the live stream and that, and then her dad showed up and took an hour and a half, and she basically like took all of her tools out, set them on the table, and then she was like, "Well, see you later, Dad. Now I got to take all my tools and put them away because we never got anything." So I came out at like what 4:20 after I
Yeah.
logged off and shut my computer down and came out to do chores. And she was like, "Well, I guess I'll just start chores." And then we didn't really do anything today. I think you got 30 minutes of work in
Yeah,
today
maybe.
on the farm,
Yeah.
and
Oh, we'll talk about that in a second. Dad's big play.
oh
Yeah. Anyway, so
yeah,
saw where Elijah was saying he has a small herd of Nigerian dwarf
yeah,
goats. Um, you can probably find somebody in your area to like get them bred if you wanted to, but I totally understand wanting to take a little break off of them. We not last year, but the year before, we got really late. Maybe it was even the year before that. We got really super busy and didn't get the goats bred at all. And by like mid January, I mean, we were looking at like 16 does that hadn't been bred yet. And I thought they're going to start kidding right in the middle of everything.
hmm
So we took a year off. We still had the goats, of course,
yeah,
but we took a year off from kidding entirely. Just
yeah,
didn't even bother. Didn't breed anybody. Didn't even try. Um, and just kind of walked away from it for a little bit. And
yeah.
it really taking. I mean, not that kidding is a huge deal because our goats are pretty much self sufficient.
Oops.
Um, I think we pulled what two or three kids this last year because our
Yeah,
herd's getting older, but
yeah,
it freed up so much time. And I didn't stop to think about the fact that when you have goat kids, you are, like the older nannies, you can just go and throw feed. once or twice a day, and you don't worry too much about them. But when they've got goat kids, you're worrying in there 2 and 3 and
Mhm.
4 times a day, making sure is everybody gaining weight, is everybody eating, all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
it can be a nice break. And if you wanted to get out of them entirely for a little bit, you could probably sell them really easy because I think it's going to be another year, especially if grocery prices keep going up. I think we're going to have another big year of people looking for stuff,
Mhm.
goats and chickens and all the rest of it. The big sticking point is going to be how expensive is all that feed for them going to be.
Yeah.
And at least goats are fairly inexpensive to feed.
Yeah.
Ray says over by his house they use a lot of sheep and goats for clearing brush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it. Nikki's got this plan to do a mobile trailer. We've got a tool drive farm truck that we brought from Tennessee. I mean, we bought it in '98, I think. Is that about
Y-
right? 98, 90, no,
No, we bought it
2000,
in 2000.
2000.
It's a
So we've had it
96.
21 years almost.
Mhm.
So it's 20 years old. It's, 250,000 miles, still runs fine, but we really don't have a good use for it because that Nikki is going to take our livestock trailer that we kind of have. We don't really use it, so we're just going to take it. We brought it down, serviced up the bearings and the tires, and make sure it'd be good. And he's going to put some goats in that, and then just start moving it around the property. And then in the day, basically stake them out with 4 cattle panels, or I think it's 4, right? You're in the 3 or 4. Anyway,
Yeah, I'm gonna see how it
something that was
works.
going to take like 15 minutes to put up really quick, and then just let them graze all day. And then at night, you just go basically put them in the trailer. And then the morning, you move them again and set them up. And you just kind of do this little patchwork quilt, letting them eat for
If
a day.
if anybody follows or reads Joel Salatin, which I've mentioned before, and people always get upset, or Alan Savory or any of that regenerative stuff where they mob stock cattle, we're basically going to try and do a similar thing, mob stocking the goats. But because of our big cat problems here, I'm going to use a trailer to lock them in at night and to move them from pasture to pasture. So it's going to be kind of an interesting experiment. I may find that it's way too much work and need to do something different, but we're going to give that a try.
Yeah. It just,
So,
yeah.
um, because I only want to move the one dog. I'm gonna move Shy out there with a good amount of the goats, but I only want one dog at a time. And Shy's getting older. She's already
7.
7, uh, or 8. Didn't we figure this out the other day that she's almost 8? Either way, she's getting a little old and starting to get some cataracts. I know that doesn't seem very old, but Pyrenees don't live forever. So I don't want her out there by herself. I don't want her to have to fight anything herself. She's a good deterrent because she's a good 125,
Yeah.
130. She's
She's a
a
big
big
dog.
dog, but I don't want to put her in any kind of danger either, especially at her age. So I'm gonna kind of put her out there during the day to keep stuff at bay. So it's gonna be interesting. We're
Okay.
gonna give it a try. But so Matthew, on your question, can 4-H students help you on the farm? Like me specifically, or are you just asking if you can do 4-H on your farm? Because right now, I'm designated as an actual leader in Klamath County. I don't have my own club this year. I'm a resource leader. And so I am not allowed to make contact directly with 4-H kids. I know that's not me specifically. 4-H right now says that we cannot meet with students or meet with kids in the
Because of
program
COVID.
because of COVID. They hope that that's going to change, and we're supposed to have COVID plans and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, I can't. It not under the mantle of 4-H.
I will say the biggest, hardest part about it is, and I have this thing that Nikki will laugh when I say this, but nobody likes to get the free Craigslist help that isn't help. We honestly have had a lot of people that have volunteered to come over and help, whether that's to put in fencing, or pull weeds in the garden, or come over and muck our stalls and all that, because it's kind of fun and nichey. But the hardest part is, and even with family, and I'll say this, extended family that has offered to come out and help and all that, they can't do the amount of work needed in the time frame without a lot of supervision, without a lot of teaching in that. The optimum thing would be to have somebody equivalent to what we know and can do to show up and can do it without us. But the hardest part is, and I'll say this, Nikki's had friends that come over and want to work on the farm and help out. And I tell you what, she's at half capacity because she has to teach and to reteach and all that stuff. So
And if we talked about this a while back, like before COVID hit, when I had my 4-H kids, and we did have the kids out one
yeah,
time for me to teach them how to do nails, and they were going to help me toenails, and it's really hard to keep kids focused sometimes,
hmm
especially when because you get a lot of younger kids in 4-H rabbit, so it's kind of hard to keep them focused and moving in the right direction. Um, but I do spend most of my time teaching, and I like that. But when I have kids on the farm, it's basically all the work just goes out the window. I spend so much time teaching that nothing gets accomplished. But yeah, right now, I mean, we had talked about it, myself and the county 4-H leader, um, or agent, I guess, extension agent. We had talked about trying to do some seminar type stuff here. This is last year at fair. We had talked about having the kids out and doing a lot of hands-on training because a good size herd. So it's easier to teach kids how to cut nails when you can do 15 or 20 of them. Um, but that's all kind of gone out the window again because Oregon, we're still not allowed to meet with the kids in person. So they hope that that's going to change this spring. But as of right now, we really can't.
yeah.
We really can't. So I don't know.
So Robin, you're asking about a tiny house to basically have somebody live here. Um, we've we've mentioned it. I know that in other videos because people have commented back. We've thought about it, of doing something like that where somebody it lives here on the property, and even we've thought about buying a fifth wheel
A travel
folded a
trailer,
travel
yeah.
trailer, basically, to stay in. They can kind of come and go as they need to and all that stuff. But we living here, kind of working towards these bigger farms and that do interns that you basically get your education as payment. The hardest part, and I have a problem with that. Um, some people would love to have the education in place of payment, but there are times that you know what that they are going to need supplies. It's a lot of work to have a third person, because there are nights that that we just are like, oh, we're so tired. You know what? What are you going to do for lunch? Let's just have some hot dogs. So I'll microwave some hot dogs and we'll eat real quick and she'll go back to work and I'll go back to work. And if you add a third or fourth or fifth person on top of that, you almost need like these bigger places that have somebody that can cook also and somebody that can do this and somebody can do that. It's a lot that we haven't really got to yet.
And the other part is because I looked at the idea of having somebody out here working off their rent, but we're so far from town
Hmm.
that unless you're going to work here and I can't pay you, we're almost too far to make a real honest good commute of it. Uh, it's we're always looking at that kind of stuff, but um, we're the other problem that we have, and I'll be completely honest, we are both very quirky and very driven people,
Hmm.
and our idea of how much work somebody should be doing and theirs is not always the same because we
Yeah.
had our nephew here a few years ago, and in his mind he was killing it. He was working hard. In my mind he was an hour lunch break every 5 o'clock.
For us in the summers, I mean, there are days that we work 16 hours a day that we'll be up at 5:30 or 6 doing something because there's daylight. It's stopped.
Okay.
Yeah. There's times that we'll be up at 6 o'clock and going because there's enough daylight to start and it's warm enough. And we'll come in at 9:30 or 10 o'clock and try to eat hot dogs or something, or eat something quick, and we go to bed.
Yeah.
And for us, it's not a problem. We just know that's how we are. But there's it's hard to tell somebody, hey, I need you to work for free, but I need you to work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Well, it's not strictly speaking legal. I
Yeah,
do have a really good friend that is getting pretty disenchanted with her job. She's the
yeah.
one I got the quail from, and she had room for their own projects.
Hmm.
Uh, but I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a funny thing, and I hate to be kind of rude to anybody, but either. I
Yeah.
mean, I like I said before, I'm dealing with some stuff in this rabbit club, and boy, is it eye opening with what you think you know about somebody versus what you
Yeah.
actually do know about somebody.
Yeah.
So
So Ray, you had mentioned RHDV2 ending right before the Reno show, and I know Nikki's gonna say, but shh, don't jinx it.
don't jinx it.
Yeah, don't jinx it.
Everything. So we had a show planned for the end of March in Oregon. It's been canceled, and that quarantine order for Reno is supposed to expire like a week before that show. So if we get no more cases, and I know Randy Shoemaker is fingers crossed that we get no more cases. If nothing else happens, that show will happen. And if it happens, I will be there. But um gosh, I'm nervous about it. I'm not even gonna lie. It seems like every time we get close to doing something, they jerk the rug out from underneath us. So I don't really know. We'll see. But
Yeah.
yeah, the Douglas County or RHDV quarantine officially actually it ends the what did I say the other day? It's almost a full week before that show. Uh, so now it's just a matter of whether or not we get another case. And what makes me nervous is we're getting really warm. There were flies out today
Hmm.
and insects, and yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Elijah, I know what you're saying. We had some friends come and stay over the summer, and they tried their best and thought they were working hard, but it was like we were just getting started. Yeah,
It
I
is. I mean, it's. I'll tell you, it's very hard to be a driven personality. I mean, she and I are both type A personalities to the point where we don't work together well at all, and we get a lot done. We get more done apart than we do together because both of us like to lead and we're not good followers to each other. So, you know,
Well, and the other thing that's hard about having people that don't already homestead, I mean, that's the thing, right? So that nobody that's going to want to come out here and do it is going to be a current homesteader because you've
mhm,
already got your own stuff.
yeah.
But the people that do want to come do it, they have in their mind this whole fun farm thing, and they don't always understand the realities of it. So Kanan's dad likes to come out and play Mountain Man Farmer every now and then and help. And he's so disruptive when we're doing stuff. He came one year while we were trying to worm goats or deworm goats and cut feet and all that kind of stuff. Well, when you're dealing with a full-size Nubian doe that wants to be a pain in the behind, you have to get a little rough with them. I mean, I'm not saying we hurt anybody, but our goats have horns, and one doe in particular ended up on her side with a knee in her stomach because she was being aggressive. And so I'm trying to very quickly cut feet as fast as we can to get her up and done and out of the way before she hurts somebody. And the whole time in my ear, I'm being told, you're being too hard on him. You're being too aggressive with him. And, he's like pushing me out of the way to pet this goat. And oh, it's okay. It's okay. Okay. Well, if I let this goat up, she's going to stab you with those horns. And it's very disruptive, and I love to teach, and I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to doing classes this year and teach people. But on a I can deal with it for a day, right? Or a weekend of teaching because I can mentally get prepared for it. We can do the hands-on, I can answer the questions, we can do that kind of stuff. And then I can go back to the business of running the farm because on weekends that I'm teaching, nothing other than the basics are getting done around here.
Mhm.
You just can't, no matter how well intentioned people are to want to get in there and help, a lot of times it's a hindrance. It just is. So I don't know. That's kind of my thing on it. I'd love the help and I desperately want some help and I'd love to find somebody that wanted to come out and live here and invest in their own little piece of the pie, right? Like if they wanted to do, like my girlfriend wants to do Icelandic sheep, I have all kinds of room to do Icelandic sheep. Would take nothing to throw some pallet, pins together, cattle panel pins and, pallet shelters and do that kind of thing. And I know her well enough to know that one, she will work. Two, she will take direction and has enough skill to do the things that she needs to do. But I also know that if it didn't work out, she would happily just pack up her sheep and go find somewhere else to live and it wouldn't bother her. Unfortunately, we don't live in those kind of times with everybody anymore. I- you know, do you face lawsuits? Do you face complaints? Do you face people walking out with your stuff? And the other thing that makes me really nervous about it, and I don't want to be disparaging to women at all, or men for that matter, but men don't always take the best direction from women. And we also live in a time where women sometimes like to cry a lot of sexist type stuff. And I have to be worried about this guy. You don't want anything, somebody deciding to make a comment, but I also don't want to have to fight somebody 24/7 on whether or not they're going to listen to me and the way that it needs to be done.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's my 2 cents about having help out. I'd love to. It's so hard to find the right person
Yeah.
that can be trusted.
Yeah.
And Kathy, it looks like you totally get it. I just don't think I can have anyone in my space 24/7. And that's why my girlfriend that I'm getting closer to I think getting out here all the time, she would be really good for that. Like we get along really well, but she's very much an introvert also, and so she could happily she could live here and there could probably be days where I didn't ever really see her, and we would totally be cool with that.
Yeah.
Like, not a problem at all.
Yep.
So it's yeah. But there again, she's got the skills to do that kind of stuff to where I could just say, "Yeah, you're gonna go live in the back of the 20," and it's really cool with that.
Yeah,
So
but she's also a driven personality that she's got a job with a 401k and makes a nice salary and all that stuff. And it's hard to it's hard to say, okay, I'm going to give all that up and go live in a travel trailer or a small tiny house or something else for a while, knowing that you don't own the property.
yeah,
If you ever wanted to leave that situation, great. It didn't really cost you any money,
but you didn't really
but you
get
didn't get
anything.
any.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of like you put your life on pause. And if you decide to go back into the corporate world, you can do that because your 401k will sit there and you can go get another job and you can do all that stuff. But you don't it's like a rent to own kind of deal,
except you don't ever
except
get
you
to.
don't ever get to own whatever it is.
Well, my idea with it was if we were gonna have somebody out, they I'd want to see like their own little business plan of, okay, well, you're gonna come out here and learn, but what is your plan? Like, I got land to let you do your own thing with,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to buy your stock and I'm not going to buy your feed and I'm not going to sell it for you. So what is your plan to do stuff?
Yeah.
And most people give you kind of the blank look there. So
Yeah. If they're like, oh, well, I'm going to build shelters and all that, it's like, well, I want to see your building plans, because if you think you're going to collect, as our old neighbors did, if you think you're going to collect every discarded tire on the road and any pallet you can get from the feed stores and all that to build a house and a shelter and all that. Not going to happen on my property.
Yeah.
You're not going to devalue my property because you don't have capital,
And I'm
basically.
yeah, and I'm pretty
You know?
flexible about stuff,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm not gonna let you build anything dangerous to either myself or the animals either. So, but yeah, I see where Robin's saying she's type A too.
Yeah.
But and he says it always ends up in a fight. We do some stuff together fine.
We do.
But there are things that, yeah, he's right. I mean, we both try and lead, and the farm is my realm. So I really try and take charge when we're doing the farm stuff. And we think very differently because he's very much an engineer, and I'm very much an jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing. So I've done a lot of stuff and I know a lot of tricks because my dad's, got a lot of tricks up his sleeve as far as doing stuff. So I tend to try and I want to do it my way, and his way is very different. And
Hmm.
usually it degrades into some kind of fight, somebody trying to storm off, and usually we work it out in the end. But there's always a fight somewhere along the way,
Yeah.
and it's just we just are wired very differently. So
Hmm.
it works that he does his stuff and I do mine. But
Yeah.
Elijah, my siblings and I get along pretty well, but when we all go outside to do evening chores, we fight fight nail and tooth. You forget to clean the stall. Whose day was it to clean pens? You didn't collect. Yep.
Eggs, etc. Yeah.
Yep. And you know what's funny is um my brother and I don't fight, but we have nothing in common either.
Yeah.
And we're also wired very differently.
Yeah.
So uh he's one of those that my brother won't fight you. Like he'll argue a little bit, but he'll just kind of run over you and do his own thing. It just Kanan wants to fight it out, and we're going to come to a conclusion of what we're doing. My brother will just like ignore you and just keep doing his thing. So, Ray, I've got to go. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
See
Thank
you,
you for
Ray.
coming, Ray. We'll see you next time. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'd love to do some different stuff.
We might this year. It's the time thing. I think that was is the most thing
Yeah.
that we just don't have enough wrapped up that we'd have that kind of free time to really help on doing stuff. It's
I've said for a while that getting back to the idea of doing a 4-H kid, I would love to find a couple of teenagers or even just a teenager that's willing to listen, that's willing to learn, uh, and not necessarily through the whole 4-H thing. But I would love to find a kid who really wants to do it. And you know, uh, we live in an area of a lot of homeschool kids, and I think that would be really
mm,
on our own farm. So it's kind of one
yeah,
of those things. But looks like Matthew's out.
yeah,
Thanks for coming, Matthew.
yeah. I mean, it would be. I think we could find a situation on the good parts of the year that you could have somebody out a few hours a day, and even if it was like you show up at 10, leave at 4, or whatever works out. We'll feed you lunch, kind of deal. I mean, because
I tried to get one of my nephews.
yeah, he's not a farm person. He doesn't want to be in farming and stuff. So
I just wanted him to do my technical computer end of things,
yeah,
and he just
yeah,
didn't want to.
yeah.
But that's okay. We'll muddle along at least for
We'll
this
get
year,
there.
and it'll be okay.
I tell you what, I think the cost of everything going up is going to curtail off some of our activities and push them out.
It's
It's
possible.
it's possible. It's just how it's. I know.
I know Robin was that about. I got to redo the farm
Well,
plan.
just my stuff's changed on my business stuff. It's changed all that stuff.
Yeah.
I was planning to go along all opportunity for you, and it's it's been I mean it's good steady work, but we're doing well enough that they've already said we're going to phase 2, and I recognize now they had said we're going to do it, we're going to phase 2, and so Nikki and I are talking like all right, well, cool. You don't have to do that. And then I look today in all of my secret behind the scenes stuff, and I realize, oh, they've already given me all the access to that. So it's like, oh, they already put it basically in my little buggy here to do, assuming I was going to take it. So now it's like, well, it's kind of hard to back out now, considering they've put it in your cart.
We'll see. We'll
But
see. Uh,
who knows? Any
so
garden plans? Yeah.
yeah, Elijah's asking about garden plans. I started doing my garden layout, which was really good. And then I've kind of put the brakes on it, and now I'm thinking of doing some other stuff. So I'm doubling down on anything that can be fed to the critters. So I'm actually adding, I think I said earlier, a couple of alfalfa patches, and I'm looking at an oats patch. And my dad today was over talking about adding a wheat field, or like doing an acre of wheat over at his house. So I'm moving the berry plants where our and then I'm doing some stuff where the the walkways in between the garden, I'm going to build them in and make them huge long raised beds instead of having the little divider pieces in between the beds. So lots of stuff to do there. And I went out and checked today because I thought I can start kind of doing some stuff, pulling some old weeds and starting to get them ready, but they're frozen. Even in 50-degree weather today, they're all pretty much still frozen. So it'll be a while. But I have it on my calendar at least this next weekend to start my seeds. So I'm excited about that because I have to pre-start pretty much everything here. Like there's very few cucumbers and squash are about the only thing that I can ever just start in the garden. Everything else pretty much has to be pre-planned and pre-started. So
Yeah.
lots of stuff. This last year should have been my salsa year. So I can salsa every other year. And we are out. We've been buying store-bought salsa for a while and it's just not as good. I think it's too sweet. So I'm doubling down on tomatoes. I'll probably try and do like 40 tomato plants this year.
Okay.
Fingers crossed that they live this year, but I don't, this whole cost of everything going up has kind of has me thrown for a loop a little bit. So I'm looking at more of what I can grow this year to produce seed again for next year. And I don't know. It's going to be a lot of stuff. A lot of
Yeah.
stuff. Tomatoes will be my big thing this year again.
Yeah.
And onions. I didn't grow any onions last year. And I'll probably do some jalapenos and stuff this year for
And then you said
salsa.
you can't find potatoes.
Yeah, I haven't been able to find potato sets. So where I usually buy, they went out of business. Everywhere else that I've looked, they're hugely expensive. I do have some potatoes left from last year that I'm going to use for seed. None of the stores have any, and the stores here are saying that we might not even get any this year. So if you've got potato sets, you're doing better than me. But then they said onion sets were going to be a big deal too, and we just got some. So um, in a normal year, Kathy, I do at least a dozen tomato plants. We don't get a very extended season with them. Like we're really lucky if we can get 3 to 4 weeks of tomatoes.
Hmm.
So I usually do at least a dozen. Last year I got nothing. I had one plant that survived. It put out one tomato and it froze before it even hit ripe.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But like 2 or 3 years ago, I think we planted most of one of the domes, the greenhouse domes.
Yeah, the one year I had 24
Yeah.
plants and I did not make as much stuff as I wanted. So I'm going to go up this year and yeah, I think I'm going to hit about 40 plants.
So in August, expect a video that says we hate tomatoes and we don't want tomatoes again because 2 or 3 years ago when we had 24 plants.
It was about to freeze, so I picked everything green and had boxes of green tomatoes in the back room for like months and would do a batch like every week as they would turn red. And it was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Elijah's got some potatoes.
So, Elijah, you're having the same issue I am. Yeah, I haven't found any yet. I know you can buy potatoes in the store you can buy organic potatoes out of the store and use those. Most of those aren't treated with a pre-emergent, but yeah, I don't know. I don't get to plant mine until May anyway because the ground is frozen. But I'm gonna keep looking. But right now, it doesn't look all that good. I found just a couple of places online, and they were just so expensive, and they were places that you never know if you're gonna get really good quality stuff anyway. So I don't know, but I see Robin's leaving. Thanks for coming, Robin. We'll see you next time. And really, we're at an hour 10, so we probably need to
It
get
doesn't
off here
matter.
too.
It doesn't matter.
Got nowhere else to be?
I got nowhere else to be.
I gotta cook dinner though.
Oh,
The guy who doesn't cook is like, I'm good. Well, I have to go cook dinner.
I just have some other stuff to do. I got
Yeah.
Porsche stuff to do tonight. So.
Oh, Porsche stuff.
Porsche
He's
stuff.
a Porsche guy.
Porsche.
Yeah.
Porsche.
Your Porsche was in a fire, but you've got a Porsche.
Yeah.
He's enjoying telling people he's a Porsche guy. That's something,
I have
right?
a Porsche. Don't ask me how much it costs.
You don't have keys. You've never started it, but you have a Porsche.
I have a Porsche in the garage.
So, fun story that the Porsche thing. So last year when I went to go get my collie, I had seen the ad for her on my birthday, and she was $800, and I had said, I really want this dog, and I hadn't had one since high school, and I've been wanting one for forever. And so he said no. A 3-day argument ensued over this. So he finally says to me, "Fine, you get the dog and I'm getting a Porsche." So my mom is in Arizona at this time, and I'm messaging back and forth with my mom, and she says, um, she's like willing to give me the money for this dog. And I'm like, oh, this is going to end in divorce. But she's like, no, you should get this dog. You've been wanting one for forever. You should get this dog. And so I finally messaged her back because I'm like, no, I don't think I should do that. And then I messaged her back and I said, okay, Kanan says I can get the collie, but he's getting a Porsche. And my mom instantly comes back with, you're getting screwed. She thought he was going to go get a brand new Porsche and I was getting an $800 dog. And I was like, no. He's not getting a new Porsche. He's getting like, I found it in the back of a, barn kind of Porsche. And then she was okay with that. She was like, "Oh, okay," because she really thought that I was getting the short end of the stick.
Actually, we have Jerusalem artichokes.
We do have Jerusalem artichokes. I don't care for them a whole heck of a lot, but we do have them, and I'll be cleaning up my bed for them this year. And this last year was the first year that they really actually grew really well. I did not know you could feed them to other stuff, believe it or not. I really haven't done much with mine. So I've had them now for like 7 years, and they did really well one year, and then the next year they really didn't, and I figured out that they weren't getting enough water. Anyway, I've had a ton of problems with them, and I finally got them doing really well this last year, and actually got the whole bed to fill in and grow. So we've eaten them a couple of times, but I've never looked that up.
Yeah.
So that's good to know. I'm gonna have to look up the nutritional information on them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not surprised that goats will eat them. Goats will eat anything.
Yeah, pretty much.
My friend's mom grows them because her husband, so my friend's dad, can't have nightshades, so he can't eat potatoes, but they do. Um, I don't know why I did that.
I don't know. Elijah's giving us contraband here.
That's weird.
Oh, probably because it says they kill themselves.
Oh, yeah, probably that. Mine have been spread out so far that, and they haven't, like I said, they haven't done really all that well. So I don't have that problem, but they are kind of like iris. Irises, when I lived in Mississippi, that was a big deal. And if I didn't get my irises thinned out enough, they would start to kill themselves. They kind of get into a big thing and just kind of lock themselves up. So yeah, most tubers will do that if you don't get right to them, but hopefully I'll get some good ones this year. My mother started growing them, and they did really well for her, to the point that she's tried to kill them like 5 times by digging them all out, and she always misses some, and here they come again. And she's like, "What is wrong with these things?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I can't get them to grow." So that, that figures. It's always the way it is.
It's always the way it is. they have one like a backfield that they had one year, and so they had never planted it before, so they thought, okay, we're gonna plant some stuff, and then they took what they thought they needed and doubled it, and then I think it grew even better than the double they planned on. So we were
They had
like
beets and
like
turnips.
every 3 days we had to go over there and help them thin their garden out and plant and pull and all this stuff. And we had, oh my gosh, I
So
think
much
we
stuff.
had so much stuff. I mean, we couldn't give it all away fast enough. It
They're
was so rough.
bringing stuff over just to feed it to the livestock after a while because
Yeah,
it's like, what do we do with
yeah, they
all
were
of
just
this
bringing stuff
stuff?
over. Like, will your goats eat this? We're like, we don't know. They'd bring over a pickup load of just roots and all kinds of stuff. We'd throw it over, and the goats. It got so bad that
The goats were sick of it.
her dad would show up with his truck and park on the road, and immediately the barns would clear because the goats would come to the fence like the feed truck showed up.
That's true.
We're like,
And then they got sick of it
yeah,
and they go into the other end like, not another turnip.
yeah,
Like even
they were
they didn't
tired
want
of
it.
eating them. So
Yeah, we were all turniped out. Turnips and kohlrabi.
yeah, the first kohlrabi.
Kohlrabi. Yeah, that was a big thing that summer too,
Yeah,
is they had kohlrabi everywhere and squash. But that was also the year Mom didn't get any potatoes, like none.
yeah,
It was terrible. They had these huge rows set up, and we dug it, and you'd get like three three little potatoes to a plant, and it was like, what the? It was awful. The one thing they really wanted, they didn't get any of them. Yeah, it's a love-hate
yeah,
relationship. I could see that because yeah, that's exactly what's going on with my mom. Is she can't seem to kill them. Like dad even tore the beds out and rebuilt them, and then I heard from her, "These things are popping up everywhere." So it's like, apparently growing and you've got things that'll eat them.
yeah,
Hey, run with it.
yeah,
Go with it.
yeah. If you got things to eat, them might as well
Yeah.
just keep thinning them out.
Yeah, we and to be fair, we only made stuff with them like once or twice, but I had such a hard time growing them. I think I've got it figured out now, so we'll see, but all right. Well, I really do need to go
Yeah,
cook
we got
dinner.
to marinate that and stuff. So
Yeah. So, all
yeah,
right. See.
yeah. So I think we're about to head out, and you got to do stuff, and I got to do stuff.
Yeah,
So
we're way over an hour. So we'll be back on next week if anybody's got anything. So one of our members, not Matthew, Nick, had asked about how to get started becoming a true rabbit breeder. So I am going to talk about that next week a little bit. So uh if you've got questions about that, I mean any questions are fine, but if you've got questions about that, that's going to be the thing for next week. So everybody have a good night. Thank you all for coming and for hanging out with us, and we will see you guys next time.